first of all, will somebody please read this for me? Start with the first word.
Physicalization.
Wonderful. Is.
External manifestation of a character.
Fantastic. Somebody translate.
The way you make your actions be the character.
Fantastic. So the way you embody. Present yourself. Physicalization is physicalization. It's wonderful. So basically we're talking about physical traits, right? So when you look, when you hear, when you see, how does that look? So let's write down as a class, y'all shout out, some physical traits that make people different.
Color.
Alright, so look,
How do you walk?
walk, which luckily since we're coordinating this with these, walk is great. I'm sorry, what was that? Can't really see if someone's stupid necessarily, but we could see a facial expression that looks uninterested.
Height.
Some others.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes into look. However, their posture. Posture's a great one. You will need a pen later, but not right now. Alright, so that's kind of getting. Think about the way that people move. For instance, here's a good one. Okay, everyone, put your stuff down for just a second. Everyone, please hold your hands out in front of you. That, however you feel. Alright, nobody move your hands. Look around at the difference in how everyone is holding their hands. Not one of you is holding them the same at all. Not even close. Right? Similar, but originally, what did you do originally? It was like this. Way down. Alright? And if you notice, when it comes, you can put them down now. People on stage, to the audience, when they see someone with open feet, open hands, kind of like they're very open to the world, very outgoing, very okay with sharing. People that are more like this, more private, you know? So the audience is going to notice those little things, maybe not consciously, but they will read them. So we can go with openness of limbs. Anything else that we can think of? Other physicalness. A laugh. Some people laugh with their whole body. Some people just kind of. Where do they laugh? A really great one. Tension. People that type all day tend to hold their shoulders back. Y'all all probably, maybe not, some of you are probably really relaxed, but almost everybody has a place where they hold tension. I hold it in this shoulder right here. See, lower back? That's going to affect the way you walk, the way you move, all of that stuff. Gestures. Everybody has gesture habits. Somebody points a lot. Somebody does this a lot. Some people make fists constantly. I played a character who always had her elbows at her side, all points in time. That's where she held the tension. Close together, right in here. So, maybe nervous habits, nail biting. Y'all think of any other ones? Breathing, that's a great one that wasn't mentioned last class. Have you all heard of leading points? Has anyone not heard of leading points? Okay, so we'll go through this. Somebody who thinks a lot, they make all their decisions based on logical thought process, probably going to lead with their head. People that kind of go with their gut instinct, you know, they're hungry, they're happy, they're sleepy, they're going to lead with their belly area. People that lead with their heart, always just, my emotions are on my sleeve. But they're going to lead with the area that kind of affects their decision making. What about how fluid or rigid is their movement? So these are just a few. You could go on to say, how does a person dance? Everybody dances different, but it's going to be specific to your character. Everyone has their own dance moves. We're going to do a little exercise. If I could have 2 volunteers, please. 1, 2. Sorry, they were front row. Y'all can be videotaped, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I'm going to ask you both, in a moment, not now, to fold those pieces of paper into a triangle that is as close to equal sides as you can get it. And your job as the audience is to watch them and watch for very small details and what's making them different. Y'all can go ahead and, as you notice them, shout them out. If you notice little things in, for instance, right now, what do you notice different about them? Feet, posture, what about head? Facial expression. So they haven't even really started moving. He's already making gestures, and so he's moving his fingers. And it's those little physicalities that are making them different already, and they haven't even started. So y'all go ahead and fold the paper. It's, believe me, you're not being graded on if you can do it. So when he coughs, he does this. When you cough, do you this or right? So your character is going to have the same kind of things. Anyone else noticing anything different? Jacob's more. So the way they're using their hands. The way he's presenting it. Someone else might Vanna White. Facial expression. So speed of movement. And they haven't said a word. And y'all are noticing all of these things by the tiny little differences in their physicalization. Alright, y'all are good on that. Thank you very much for assisting me. Marvelous. Okay, so do we have any questions about this so far? Anyone want to add anything to the list? Great. Moving on. Let us.
Did you say gravy?
I did say gravy. I love gravy. Okay, so first I want to show y'all one of my favorite walks. I kind of talked about it earlier. So if you'll take a note of my stance normally, I'm sure y'all have seen me walking a few times since I've been here. My favorite character is an old lady. She had a leading point of her this area. She had tension here, and she had this kind of facial expression all the time. So those are just 3 things out of this whole list, but this is how she was. All the time. So, just a small example. That was one of my favorite old ladies, Mad Woman of Sheo, if y'all know the play. So here's the point though. Every person, every character has all of these, right? The difference is, how do they laugh? So when doing the next exercises, don't just put laugh. You want to put how. Is it a chuckle? Is it a full-bodied ho ho ho? Posture. Not, of course they have a posture. What is their posture? And does it depend on the mood they're in? Does it depend on the people they're with? Eye contact. It's another really strong one. They feel like their height or stature is above everyone. They must look down upon everyone. So, what we're going to be doing is correlating the 6 sections of your poem with individual physicalizations. So you're not going to use all of them. You'll be using 6 of them. If you want to use more power to you, because your character can only get better, right? So let's do some examples. How might someone's ancestry affect one of these areas? Give me an example.
Something wrong with your spine or something. They could all have a...
So if kind of they have like a spine thing in their family, then maybe their family... Remember, we always imitate our family. I mean, that's where we learned how to walk and talk, right? So if you have a really proper family history, as a lady, you might sit more like this. Whereas you come from kind of a whatever everything goes family, you're going to be a little, whatever, throw it around, let's have fun. Versus the proper rigid 90-degree angle type deal. Anyone else give an example of how ancestry could affect one of these? Nervous habits. Give me an example. Probably going to bite your nails. Exactly. Some other nervous habits. Tapping. Alright, it makes you nervous. I get terribly nervous when someone's sitting next to me in class. I can't pay attention to anything. Okay, so moving on. This one is really, to me, one of the easier ones. Animal. Give me an example of an animal that would affect one of these and how it would change it. So speed of walk. definitely, because you can have speed of movement, speed of walk. So give me an animal and talk about how that would affect their speed of walk. Okay, so
Versus fast.
move very fast, and that seems, a cheetah has very good movement too. It's not just fast, it's very controlled. I'm sorry? Fluid, exactly. Give me another animal. An elephant. How would an elephant walk?
Big fast.
Slow, but still very grounded,
Loud.
clumping perhaps. Alright, so you're not just gonna say, my animal is a cat. You would say, my character walks stealth-like, or my character walks very lazily. I mean, there are certain cats that are frisky, and there are certain cats that are not so frisky. So just because it's a cat doesn't mean it's exactly what it's gonna be. Give me an example of how color can change. It's a little harder. One of those faces. Uh-huh. What about energy and brightness? If you have a very, so maybe a very yellow character, a very orange character is going to be more open. That's a good one. Anything else? Maybe a red character kind of takes presence when they walk in the room. A light blue maybe kind of fades in the back. They do. Okay, so that one is a little more difficult. With that one, I think more about energy and brightness and presence. I feel like a color is really going to tell you how much they blend versus how much they stand out. Non-animal nature. Give me some examples.
Trees and stuff.
Okay, so how would a tree show up in your character?
It'd be stiff, very rigid.
Stiff and rigid, very planted, so grounding. Some characters can be up in the sky, they're very wind-like, like that, whereas a tree character might be more connected to their walk. Anything else? What about a river?
Be really easygoing.
Easygoing, very fluid. And we want to think about those little habits that make people different. The little ways, like how do they point? How does someone who's a water versus someone who's a stone, how would that affect the way that they point at things? Maybe a stone is this, whereas a water is kind of like this over here. Height and stature. Someone give me an example of that. Posture, definitely. Tension. And what kind of tension would you see from someone who is maybe really tall? And I know that it might seem silly when you're in a classroom to exaggerate this much, but when you're on stage, it reads very well. So the bigger it is, the more it's going to get out to the audience, right? So definitely tension for that one. I feel like eye contact goes really well with height and stature. Like I said earlier, do you look down on people? Maybe you feel small, even though you're tall, but they feel small, so they don't look anybody in the eyes, ever. There are plenty of people that go through this life, and they never look one person in the eyes, ever. It's not good for businesses, but it's possible. I don't know how they do it, but they do. What about walk and movement? So that seems pretty simple, but when you go and look at your writing, how is that actually affecting your characters walking on stage? How do they walk differently from you? So just because it's walk and movement doesn't mean it's not affecting the gestures, right? Anything else? Can y'all think of an example from anywhere in there? It doesn't have to be.
How do you?
Maybe think of a
Maybe a
character. Good. Y'all think of any teachers, friends that have common stances. I know last class we had a girl that was standing up here and she was standing like this and they said, oh, that's her stance. Well, what is your character's stance? What is your character's movement? So each one, I'm going to have y'all take a moment and give you about 7 minutes. And you're going to write down for each section a specific physicality. You're not going to write look, walk, facial expression. You're going to write looks like they're smelling something bad all the time. Looks like they cannot stand up straight ever. Or looks like they're about to hurt themselves for standing up so straight. So don't just write one of these next to one of those. You need to be specific. Heavy breathing, very shallow breathing. Is the breathing visible? Or whenever they get panicky, okay, I'm panicking. Or maybe when they panic, they shut down. All right? It's those little things. So you need to be very specific. The more specific you are, the easier it's going to be for you to implement that with your character, okay? So everyone go ahead and take about 7 minutes. Brainstorm some ideas. If y'all have any questions for me, please feel free to ask. Write them on a separate piece of paper.
Separate seat?
I'm going to turn these in at the end of class. Y'all are going to turn these. I'll be taking them out.
Am I talking?
It's the perfect sheet. Because I'm going to take them out, and then you probably want to get it.
You don't know, but that boy is perfect.
Got about 7 minutes to write down 6 physicalities that correlate directly with your poem section.
Seven, right?
7
Stop
minutes.
filming because I look fast.
I have to turn in the video to my teacher.
Hey, do we write 6?
We write 1 for each of the sections. Directly correlated. Your character is a penguin. Do they waddle? That's a perfectly acceptable character walk.
I think Yellowstone's going to wall in the tiger.
If y'all need to bounce ideas off me, I'd be happy to help you. I mean, it could affect gestures. It could affect reactions. The way that if someone surprises her, instead of her, you know, there's like, little things like definitely can affect walk and stride. How much swagger does your person walk with? A lot? Maybe none at all? If you feel that ancestry created that, think about the way they handle things. Personally, I'm a waitress. When I carry things, I almost always carry them like it's a plate of food.
They say it's the best, isn't it?
Instead of picking up a book and carrying it like this, a lot of times I walk like that. I catch myself doing it all the time. Why? Because of my job. So I guess that would go into my ancestry, my history. Like this. Feel free to try them out. Maybe you want to try on a different kind of hand. Try out a couple. Try out some gestures before you decide on which one feels right. You're going to be acting them out in just a little bit, so if you start now, it'll make it easier in 20 minutes. Try on different pairs of laps. You can try on a different pair of feet. So it gets a little bit. So maybe when your character walks, they walk beside people. They go like why you picked that animal or why you picked that nature. And why you picked it is going to directly affect why your character would change how they act.
I used to just like cut them right off, like straight up. Because I think it would fall off.
I know, I've been cutting it all day and it's only getting worse and worse.
Or you could put like get a
I've just been
red
seeing
seed and like wrap it around.
I think when I get home, I'll like
Make you angry.
burn all the end of it.
Nothing makes you angry.
Ideal.
Until then, I'm deciding because you're not. Because when I came in this morning, it was like 2 strings, and then it was 6, and now it's old. So I'm just hanging on by a thread. Y'all got a few more minutes. And if you want to write down 1 or 2 and then try them out and see which one feels better, that is perfectly fine. This is not set in stone. Just want to get y'all brainstorming so that you can try them out, see how they feel. It's like trying on a new shirt, but you're trying on a new physicalization. Try to be very specific.
Jacob is doing some things that are helpful. He's standing up and trying it on.
So,
I thought people could like tell, like,
yeah, exactly. By what they're wearing.
yeah, they just think that they're gross.
Just gross. Few more minutes and I'll wrap up. And if you're not sure of one, just write a couple down that you've thought of and then try them out in the next part of the activity. One that's coupled. Maybe they, or these, because I know that literal, like, summer helper sitting, you just cross the ankles. So, but she crosses her legs. And maybe she leans, you know what I mean? Maybe she does this a lot, but in a more restricted way. Maybe she's got one of those faces. Go ahead and finish up your thoughts. Nothing's set in stone, so just get it all on the paper real quick. I'll know you're ready when everyone's looking at me. Is anyone really not finished? Whenever we move on to the next part, if you're really still lost, you're gonna get feedback. feedback, okay? So don't worry, just write down anything you thought, all right? And then your partner's gonna help you, okay?
We need help too.
Yeah, definitely. We're still gonna work on these for a little bit. So right now I'm gonna ask you all to get partners for the second part. And what we're gonna do is you're gonna use your monologue and you are going to implement your new physicalities while reading your monologue. So this is not about memorization by any means. Feel free to hold it. If you don't wanna read your whole monologue, that's fine. Just read one part, or maybe you just read the parts where your physicalness comes into play. But definitely be trying to put all of these in your body. That's the point of this, is to put this into your body. When I walk around, if I was to take a picture of you, it should not look like you standing there holding a piece of paper. It should look like something different than the way you would stand and read a piece of paper. So, everyone get in partners. Your job is to either be performing your monologue and trying out your physicalities, or providing feedback to your partner about how their physicalities are affecting their performance. How is that affecting the way the audience perceives the monologue, okay? Either feedback or performance from each partner. If there needs to be a group of 3, that's fine. So go ahead and do that, partner up. And if you're having troubles, run through with your partners. Definitely a group should be using one stage, because that's an awesome area. Don't close yourselves in between chairs. You want space to move, space to groove perhaps. Yeah, look at this big open space. I'll get out of the way.
That's what I'm saying. What you did is string together quantum the big place of information. Charms. Yes, yes. Do that for like that. Showed up when they like that. Yeah, I like that.
Mine is close.
There's nothing more we could do.
I'm just like one of them.
Elizabeth
And carrying this bag with papers and things, alright?
I went to see them.
Ain't done no more work or nothing. Just had him string ornament here with house with and throw his money away. Bought him a big, fancy house. Well, it wasn't all that big, but it did have one that might hold it. Used to hire me in one service just to paint the fence.
Allied play.
One of them fellows
Scouring
got
the world.
on the house and killed him.
Yes, man on a bicycle.
And he laughed about it.
The biggest thing.
Sheriff coming, arrested him, and then he let him go. And he went around laughing like it was no
3
big
days.
If you were a seductive gamer, you're good, okay? Get into it, Bobby.
You are right. I have never had the courage to well, I want to make your house dance. Let us say it is that I am the free thinker then. Am I going to prove it to you? Science. That the people's messengers use you by their nose and exchange their hands.
I love all the gestures.
We're over sitting down, shooting.
You got a spinal injury.
I am white skinned, yet I am green. I walk with no swagger. I stand currently 5'6". I am fly yet rich.
That's a really nice gesture. That's kind of including your mom already.
And I don't, and
That's fine too.
Load out the water.
How does your character stand? Is your character stance or is it yours? It's a jazzy stance. What is your character? And did you write it?
Sesame seeds and a quarter page, a handful of ribbons.
I mean, it can change. By no means saying to stay the same.
Suggest things.
But just try one out. Like I said, try it on a pair of shirts.
Anyway, I bought her
Try one out.
marbles, and she printed out
See how it
writing
feels.
and put them in this old cut glass whole, which has been the sum total of the common people, the crowd, the masses are the real essence of the people. That is only a newspaper lie. I tell you, the common people are nothing more than the raw material of a people which a people is made. Well, isn't that what are your difference between a purebred and a bred strain of animals?
Chewing on your
Well, now a common garden
charms.
what sort of eating do you get from a sugar
Fancy that. He carried his bag with papers
Where you feel should be emphasized.
had him a pocket full of just living life.
So find the gesture that your character makes when they're really serious. You know what I mean? And that will help you emphasize those words. You can use your You don't have to count all of them.
I'll look behind you. Oh my god, I do. Just kidding.
Well, you're all like this.
Like the first thing
Is your character clear?
No.
I feel like I was just
What bothers me?
feeling about it, you know? How does he feel about that?
He was a woman. When I was learning when I was 16, I made this tribe.
How would you feel
All at once, in much more stupid.
And when you talk about it, I mean, yeah, if he doesn't care, then maybe you don't want to bring him around. But definitely you can show that. How does he feel about it? And if he's a lawyer and a priest, very personal. Oh no. I mean, I'm not making decisions for you.
The second night, and there it was, a terrible black tunic marching out of this
When I was 16, I made this stuff. Okay, when you flat me hard on that. Because that's like that like embodies your character. Like that's I'm sure like